Hello and welcome back to my channel What If Deku 2.0. Join us as we delve into the realms of fanfiction and fantasy, bringing you the best stories and discussions. Today we're kicking off part 3 of our series, What If Vigilante Deku was the owner of Cat Cafe? If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content in the future. The author of this story is Arj12 from Archive of Our Own. All the relevant links are in the description. Feel free to say hello to the author on their profile. Now let's dive into the fanfic. Izuku peeks into Mike's classroom. It's loud, it's Yamada, of course it's loud, and generally pretty rowdy. It's easy for Izuku to sneak into the chaos without being noticed. He waves at the man and present Mike returns it with a bright smile. Little listener. Sho told me you've been accepted to his class, congratulations. Izuku gets a little embarrassed with the praise, thanks. I'm actually here to take a test to finish some credits. He explains and the man nods. I heard about that. I knew you were super smart but wow. You really finished high school already? Izuku smiles shyly, yeah. It's not a big deal or whatever, I just like to learn. Yamada hands the boy his test paper. It's impressive anyhow. Anyway, you've got an hour to complete it, let me know if you have any questions. Izuku nods as he sits at the desk and looks over the packet. He smirks when he realizes just how easy this will be. He picks up his pencil and begins writing. 20 minutes later Izuku finishes the test. He double-checks his answers and then turns them in. I'm done. He says somewhat nervously. He doesn't know Yamada nearly as well as he knows Aizawa. Even though he knows him, he doesn't know what to expect from the man. Holy cow. That was fast. Mike glances at the clock then back to Izuku's papers. This is really good, kiddo. Izuku feels his heart constrict. Mom used to call me that. Thanks. Izuku grabs his backpack quickly as he rushes out of the room. The last thing he wants is for the man to see him cry. He closes the door and takes a deep breath before walking down the hallway to try and find the exit. The day is almost over at this point, so he figures there's not much of a point in being there. Eventually he gets out of the building. That was his very first day at UA High School. Wow. All Might feels like he's been going crazy. He's been seeing flashes of his successor's green hair all over UA, but whenever he turns to get a better look there's nobody there. He knows he has to talk to young Midoriya soon. But what if Gran Torino is right and he has nefarious intentions? Could he really take on the boy with the small amount of one for all he has left? But he knows he's simply delaying the inevitable, so after the first day of his new teaching job, which is absolutely exhausting, he goes to the Evergreen cafe. He walks through the door cautiously and is shocked to see young Midoriya standing behind the counter chatting happily with his friend who he believes is called Toga. The freckled boy turned to All Might and gasped, I knew I was forgetting something. He turns to his friend and says, I'll be back in 5, I promise. To which the girl hits him playfully. Izuku brings Yagi over to a booth in the corner and Izuku pets Hestia and Toshinori is surprised when a gray cat named Poseidon jumps on his lap. Izuku smiles nervously, I kinda disappeared there, didn't I? He isn't meeting Yagi's eyes and it's unsettling. Yes you did, young man. Care to explain? Midoriya takes a deep breath and Toshinori knows he's in for a long story. Okay, so like last week I saw this man in an alley. He was dying and like bleeding out all over me. Kinda gross, not gonna lie. So I had a touch of a mental breakdown and threw my phone out the window. Toshinori blinks stupidly. What? You saw a man die? Are you alright? Izuku waves his hand nonchalantly. Probably? But any hoops, it doesn't really matter because I got into UA anyway. Cheers for me. He holds his fist up for Yagi to meet, which he does hesitantly. Good for you? Thanks. You'll see me in 1A soon, but I'll spend most of my time in Nezu's office, since technically he's teaching me. The boy beams as he rambles on about this and that. Yagi doesn't know what to think. On one hand his successor has always seemed so kind and trustworthy. But on the other hand he knows very little about this eccentric boy. Well, that's lovely young Midoriya. All Might stands up and Izuku follows suit. I'm afraid I have some things to do, but I hope you have a good day. Yagi attempts a feeble smile as he leaves. God, he hopes he's wrong. Izuku walks back over to Himiko slowly. His brain is fizzing with a new problem that just arose. What's up, Zu? Who was that old scarecrow you were talking to? Himiko practically pounces on him for an answer. Just a mentor of sorts. I kinda checked my phone out the window so I lost contact with lots of people. He explains. Should I kill him? Himiko suggests as she puts a batch of muffins in the oven. What? No. Izuku sputtered. Toga shrugs casually, I don't know man, you seem upset. I figured it was him. Izuku considers this. It is true that he's upset, but it's not worth killing All Might over. Honestly, the new mind-reading quirk was quite bothersome. He didn't even realize he was using it until All Might came in. So Toshinori thinks he's working with his dad? So weird honestly, but not altogether surprising. Nezu has described him as unconventional before, and that's coming from a rat genius. So he knows that he's not exactly the picture of normality, but it's still a little hurtful. But he's still gotta get the man off of his back. He might not be working with All for one, but he sure as hell doesn't want his real connection to the man being unearthed. For now though, Izuku is just tired. And that brings him to the gray zone. The Bloody Body Bar is rather busy today and Izuku enjoys the atmosphere. He sits down at his usual spot and taps anxiously on the counter. His favorite bartender walks up to him with an amused expression on his face. "I can feel your nerves from across the bar, Greenie." It's not a question, but it begs for a response nonetheless. Izuku gives the man a wiry smile from under his mask. Well, when a hero is trying to discover your best hidden secret, you get a touch antsy. Dabi's eyebrows shoot up. "Well, DMN. Want a drink?" Izuku is just about to say no like he always does, but something stops him this time. Liquid courage might be helpful tonight. You know what, sure. I might as well. He shrugged. Dabi pours him a shot and slides it across the bar. Izuku takes off his mask just enough to down it in one gulp. Jesus. He coughs as he puts his mask back on. That was awful. Dabi smirks unsympathetically. I know. Want another? He watches as Dabi refills his glass once more. Izuku is feeling great. Who knew that vodka was such a pick-me-up? A lot of people do, he supposes. So, Dabi has the face that tells Izuku he's about to pry. What's Helios's biggest secret that a hero is about to uncover? Izuku wags his finger at the man. No. He's trying. He won't find SHT probably. He laughs maniacally at the idea of All Might truly finding out who his parents are. You seem unsure. Dabi says. Of course I am. He's freaking All Might. If anyone can figure it out, it's him. Izuku's words slur as he collapses with his head in his arms. Ooh, you've got All Might on your tail. That's not good. Izuku glares at the scarred man. No SHT Sherlock. Anyway, Izuku tries to stand but he stumbles pathetically. I've gotta go. Dabi gets out from behind the bar and helps Helios up. You know, you're wasted, Greenie. Izuku groans in protest as Dabi leads him to a couch. Someone says, I'll wake you up in a few hours. Izuku feels someone pull a blanket up to his shoulders. Good night. He says faintly to whoever is out there. Thank you. Izuku is feeling horrendous. He wakes up on a gross, stained couch in full vigilante gear with a pounding headache. He looks around surprised that he's still in the bloody body. The bar is pretty much empty except for Dabi, who's wiping down the tables like he does every night. Just then Dabi notices he's awake. Well, look who's up. He smirks. How do you feel? Awful. Izuku says bitterly. Dabi barks out a laugh. Yeah, I figured. You passed out at like 3 a.m. and there's no way I could let you go home like that. Izuku clutches his head as he looks up at the man. What happened last night? Dabi smiles. Well? Dabi watches the vigilante demonstrate the proper way to moonwalk. Fascinating stuff, sure, but he just wishes it wasn't on top of his bar. Join me, Dabs. Helios had grabbed his wrists and was attempting to drag the black-haired man onto the counter. No way, Greenie. I'd rather stay on the safety of the ground. PSSH. Helios scoffed at the man but got off the bar nonetheless. My first time drinking and I can't even moonwalk with a friend. The vigilante pouts and Dabi has to bite back his laugh. This is your first time drinking and you've already had 5 shots? Helios shoves his shoulder happily. Yep. This is so fun I feel like murdering someone. Dabi rolls his eyes. Wonderful. Oh. Helios stops suddenly and turns to him. Do you think Endeavor would survive being plunged into the Arctic? Dabi spits out his own drink. What the F? Helios sits down and looks at the man intensively. Think about it. Endeavor is fire, right? He wonders where Greenie is going with this. Yeah. I say we drown the beach. Helios pumps a fist in the air and turns to the other bar patrons. Right, guys? Drown the beach. Drown the beach. The others join in his chanting and eventually even Dabi is shouting along. Drown the beach. Dabi yells in coordination with Helios. Who wants to taste the mystery drink? Izuku yells to the bar as he holds a glass above his head. It's not a mystery, we all saw you spit in it. Clash yells back just as loud. Izuku flips him the bird as he turns to Dabi. Do you want the mystery drink? Dabi takes the glass and pours it down the sink as he replies, absolutely not. I need more unsuspecting victims. Izuku pouts as he leaves his seat to find someone more oblivious to his schemes. Clash looks at the Vigilante in horror as Izuku downs his 8th shot. How are you still alive? Izuku cackles, pure spite. Okay, so if he wouldn't drown, then how do you plan to kill him? Helios asks curiously. Dabi quirks an eyebrow. Why do you think I want to kill Endeavor of all people? Peach, Izuku scoffs at the man. Don't be stupid, Tuya, everyone wants to kill Endeavor for something. If Izuku were even a little less drunk, he'd realize the mistake he'd just made. Dabi freezes, but Izuku just continues word vomiting. So, poison? He suggests. The bartender huffs out a laugh. Sure, that might work. Perfect. I've gotta write that down. Izuku looks at the man in shock. I'm never drinking again. Dabi pats his shoulder. That's what they all say. Izuku flips him off, but the man just laughs. I have no idea how you know the things that you do, Greenie. What do you mean? How long have you known who I was? The pieces click together and Izuku explains, kinda the whole time. Dabi sighs, DMN. Well, if you ever decide to go through with that murder plot of yours, let me know. Izuku beams at him. I will. He says sincerely. He waves to the bartender as he leaves. Thanks for taking care of me, see you later. Yeah, whatever. Izuku ducks into an alleyway and stuffs his vigilante suit into his backpack. He looks around and is surprised by the amount of daylight out. He pulls out his new phone to check the time and almost has a heart attack. He has 17 minutes to get to school. He runs to the Evergreen and sees both Aizawa and Toga staring at him. I couldn't get him to leave. Toga mouths to the boy from behind his teacher. Hi guys. Izuku waves to the pair nervously and Aizawa's frown just deepens. School starts in 15 minutes, mister. Eraser crosses his arms as he stares down the boy. Izuku just shrugs. Yeah, shouldn't you be rushing over to UA? You're my teacher after all. He hopes he can shoo Aizawa out of here fast to brush his teeth and maybe smell a little bit less like vodka. Thankfully he isn't completely out of luck, because Aizawa just shakes his head and leaves begrudgingly. Once the bell jingles and he's sure Aizawa can't hear them, he hisses to Himiko. Why was he here? I don't know. He asked where you were and I said you were busy. She explains hastily. Izuku grimaces. He didn't believe you. Apparently not. He was all, what the hell is that boy up to now? Toga imitates the grumpy man's tone before asking him, where were you though? Izuku throws his Helios suit under the floorboards and fills his backpack with his school materials. It's a long story. Helios had a long night with a lot of headaches. He snatches a bottle of pain reliever and dry swallows a few pills. Himiko hums, you smell disgusting by the way. Thanks. He says dryly before explaining, I had way too many shots last night. Without me? Toga exclaims as she watches him brush his teeth vigorously. He shoots her a wiry smile. I'll invite you next time. Promise? Promise. Anyway, I need to change and get to school. God, why did I drink on a school night? He whines to her as he digs through his closet. She laughs mercilessly. Don't ask me, man, I'm a dropout. He ties his red shoes as he runs down the stairs and out the door. Thanks for covering for me, Himi. No worries, problem child. She laughs as he glares at her. He runs to the UA gate as fast as he can without using his speed quirk. He pulls out his phone to look at the time. 3 minutes left. He's still a little loopy, but hopefully it's not too obvious. He enters 1A just as the bell rings and he sighs in relief that he made it on time. He starts to walk towards his desk, but Aizawa grabs him by his collar and drags him back. Have you been drinking, problem child? Well, if Aizawa's question got the attention of the entire class, including Kaken. What, no? Izuku scoffs like the idea itself is ridiculous. Kaken rolls his eyes. The nerd is way too wimpy to drink, let alone go to school drunk. See, just because of that Izuku will confess. He glares at the blonde boy. You know what, F you Kaken? He turns back to Aizawa and looks at him directly in the eye. Yes, I got plastered last night, why do you ask? DMN. He sees a pink-skinned girl recording this mess, so he throws up a peace sign to the camera. Aizawa twitches and closes his eyes as he sighs loudly. Sit down. I will deal with you at lunch. Izuku would be grateful to not be given a punishment, but he knows Aizawa. He's going to get the scolding of his life in a few hours. He salutes to the man nonetheless. Sir, yes sir. If Mina Ishido has one specialty, it's gossip. She knows everyone's business all the time and she adores it. Because of that trait, she's rather good at picking out interesting people wherever she goes. And Yue has a whole lot of interesting. One who sticks out particularly is Izuku Midoriya. He came in late the first day and fought with Katsuki Bakugu, who's very weird for entirely different reasons. one of her most volatile classmates, and he even called him Kakin? Then he blew everyone away with an insane amount of power before Aizawa sent him to Nezu. Then for the rest of the day he just disappeared without a trace. Not to mention his massive internet presence. Usually Mina has to search around to find people's profiles, but he has a following of a few 100,000. A cafe owner and a menace in general. She already likes this kid. And now he shows up smelling blatantly of vodka. Very interesting. So when they leave for the UA training gym, she heads straight towards the green-haired boy, who's currently in some sort of argument with Bakugo. But that doesn't deter her. Oh my god, just chill, you're reminding me of Auntie. The freckled boy seems a little out of it as he waves off Bakugo. The F did you just say, Deku? And what the hell is up with you? Izuku laughs, a very good question, Kakin. Just then he notices Ishido. Hello, recording girl. Mina smiles, that's me. She holds a hand out for the boy to shake. Mina, Ishido at your service. Bakugo looks between the two and decides getting his answers isn't worth the social interaction. He leaves and Mina sits on the bench next to Izuku. Izuku Midoriya. But you already knew that. He smiles and Mina has to fight the urge to shudder. Instead she just grins. Her gossip sense is never wrong. I did indeed. Owner of Evergreen, correct. She asks just to be polite. He smiles, that's me. Then a wave of inspiration seems to hit him as he sits up. Say, do any of your friends need a part-time job? Huh. She's confused by the sudden turn the conversation is taking. I don't know, why do you ask? The Evergreen needs new employees. I've been putting it off for a while, but my only employee is kinda swamped right now. She nods in understanding. Toga, right? He scratches the back of his neck. Yeah, sorry, it's still kinda weird that thousands of strangers on the internet know who we are. She feels bad for putting him on edge. Oh, that must be weird, I'm sorry. She looks over and sees Aizawa glaring at the pair of them. She figures he must want them to actually do work. Well, I'll let you know if anyone's interested. She stands up and offers him a hand to get off the bench, which he takes easily. Thanks, I appreciate it. She smiles, of course. But can you remind me what our assignment is here? I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't listening to anything Mr. Aizawa said. Trust me, I am way too hungover to know. He says with a glint in his eyes. Mina laughs as they try to imitate whatever exercise their classmates are doing. Izuku sits across from Shoyuta nervously. Aizawa's office was pretty plain and there was nothing to distract him from the incoming scolding. Tell me, what on earth were you thinking? Aizawa exclaims. I was thinking that I wanted to get wasted. Izuku's response slips out and one glance in his teacher's direction tells him that Aizawa's not amused. Come on, kid. You're not stupid, why are you doing reckless things? Izuku rolls his eyes. Does it really matter? He doesn't get the big deal. Why is Aizawa being so annoying about this? You could get kicked out of UA for this. I know you, Midoriya, you are too smart to be showing up hungover. Izuku frowns. Who cares how smart I am? I got offered a drink and I took it. I wanted to feel better and I did. Why is that a bad thing? He can tell the pain meds he took are wearing off because his headache is slowly worsening. Aizawa sighs. Midoriya, you're not even old enough to know how bad life gets. You shouldn't be drinking. With that, Izuku has decided the conversation is over. Because who is Aizawa to know what he's dealing with? F him. Obviously, sir, you've never been an orphan at 11. Don't tell me what I know about a bad life. He spat as he stormed out of the classroom. Before slamming the door, Izuku decides he hasn't yelled at the man enough. Beach. Perfect. Thankfully, Izuku doesn't have another hero class lesson for a few hours, so he's Nezu's problem now. He enters the vents like he usually does to get to the principal's office. He supposes he's going to have to figure out what the school looks like from the ground at some point. He falls out of the vents lacking all the grace of his normal self. Thankfully, he lands on the sofa. He looks around and sees Nezu sitting opposite him as if he were expecting the boy to fall from the ceiling. Actually, he probably was expecting this now that Izuku thinks about it. Hey dude. He waves at his chess partner with a weary smile. Nezu shakes his head and places a few pills for pain relief in Izuku's hand. Izuku sits up and swallows them quickly as the principal begins to speak. There have been many complaints about you today. His expression gives away nothing and Izuku frowns at the rat. Wonder why? He says as innocently as he can. I heard your spat with Eraser. Izuku had forgotten about the principal's cameras. He says, not wanting to talk about the man right now. Aizawa was out of line with some of what he said. But he was right about most of it. You should be careful. Yeah, I've heard the same spiel over and over. Don't drink, don't do drags, blah blah blah, I got it already. He's really getting tired of this. Kakin, Aizawa, and now even Nezu is chewing him out. Luckily Nezu seems to recognize that Izuku doesn't want to talk about it because he moves his knight forward and asks him a question. How do you want to deal with All Might suspecting you to be working for All for One? Izuku winces, so he told you about that? Nezu smiles, yes he did. I told him he was entirely incorrect but the oaf won't listen to me. I was correct in telling him that, yes. Yeah, you were right. I don't know why he's so insistent on me being evil. I don't seem suspicious, do I? Izuku whines. Nezu scans him from head to toe before replying, you do seem like the kind of person with secrets. I won't lie, I thought you could be working with All for One when I first heard of you. Izuku puts his face in his hands as he groans, I've got to fix this. He moves upon, what would you do to get All Might off my back? Nezu smiles all of a sudden and his beady eyes get a vicious glint. I would tell him that you're Helios. For a second Izuku thinks Nezu is joking before remembering that the rodent does not joke. You're kidding me? He says. I'm serious. He senses something is off with you, you might as well tell him the truth. Nezu takes a sip of his tea, besides, being a vigilante is better than being a villain. He won't even be mad, just relieved. Izuku considers this for a moment. Okay, fine. I'll do it. He says glumly. Nezu grins, wonderful. Now we should probably get to our lessons, yes. Izuku tilts his head curiously, lessons? You mean you're actually going to teach me SHT? Nezu brings out their conspiracy board with their information on All for One. This unit is on catching criminal masterminds. Izuku grins. F awesome. He grabs a box of files, let's catch this beach, sir. By the time he had to return to Mr. Aizawa's class, he and Nezu had made a great deal of progress. Solving crimes is much easier with a certified genius by your side. But unfortunately he was now incredibly sober. He walks into the 1A class and all of a sudden he's very envious of Hagekire's invisibility quirk. The class is staring at him and for good reason too. He made a fool out of himself earlier in the day and now that he's in his right mind he's realizing what he did. He waves to the class, hi, then turns to Aizawa who seems to be refusing to look at him. He supposes that the last thing he said to the man was beach, so it makes sense. He takes his seat and Aizawa goes to explain his tardiness. Oh right, I forgot to tell you guys. Izuku Midoriya here. He gestures to him, is the principal's private student. He already finished your normal classes so he's just here for a hero's license. The class's attention returns to Midoriya and he has to resist the urge to glare at the man that set all eyes on him. He nods to the class and smiles weakly at Mina who's staring at him intently. Aizawa explains to the class the training exercise they're going to do and Izuku looks out the window as he zones out. After a few minutes he's forcibly dragged out of his daydreaming. Eraser's sharp voice interrupts, Midoriya, are you listening to me? No, Izuku replies casually before realizing he said that out loud. He turns to the man, I mean, yes? Aizawa crosses his arms, sound more sure next time. He gestures for the class to get up and everyone walks out the door hastily. As he walks out the door with his classmates a lot of people surround him. In the front is a boy with a lightning bolt in his hair, Kaminari maybe? Dude, did you really show up to school hungover? The boy asks incredulously. Izuku supposes he should try to make a good impression. Ah, that wasn't my proudest moment but yes I did. Kaken walks up behind him, proudest moment makes it sound like it was years ago and not this morning. Izuku glares at the boy, you're a cocky but you know that? They reach the room where all of their hero costumes are. People spread out to look at their own suits. Bakuga's not deterred though, yeah whatever. Auntie is gonna have your head when she hears this. Izuku's breath hitches. He doesn't know? Oh god, of course he doesn't. How could he? He takes a deep breath before replying. He doesn't give a SHT about the classmates obviously eavesdropping, and he doesn't care about Aizawa being a few feet away. She's dead, Kaken. He says quietly. Katsuki freezes in his tracks and all their classmates pretend to be doing other things. What did you just say? His voice is abnormally quiet. It was Endeavor. He sees Todoroki twitch a few feet away, that son of a beach killed her while going after a villain. He tears up and ignores his cracking voice, makes you wonder who the real villains are, huh? All of a sudden there's a weight wrapping around him. He opens his eyes, Kaken is hugging him? I'm sorry. The blonde boy says quietly before pulling away. When was it? Izuku sighs sadly, it's been a few years. I'm managing. He looks up at Bakugo and sees his watery eyes. Sorry I wasn't there. Kaken is staring at his own hero costume. To help, you know? Izuku almost scoffs at the idea that middle school Katsuki would help him. But he sees the honesty in the boy's red eyes, thanks Kaken. That's nice of you. Kaken wipes his eyes on his sleeve, Whatever, nerd. I'm still gonna kick your butt. Izuku laughs. You'll try. As the class changed into their hero costumes, Aizawa Shoyuta was berating himself. Who the hell was he to tell someone how good their life should be? Despite knowing the kid for years, Aizawa has to admit that he knows frighteningly little about his personal life. Izuku Midoriya doesn't let people in easily. That much was clear. He may seem happy and outgoing, but the kid is sprinting 24/7 and nobody can keep that up. So he doesn't know the boy as well as he thought he did. But he'd like to know him. That kid needs someone. Now more than ever. So he takes a deep breath and mentally prepares his apology. Izuku watches his classmates' matches on the big screen, painfully aware of everyone's stares. He knows why people are so curious, he just wishes they'd have a bit more tact. You see, Izuku's costume is a near-perfect replica of Helios's suit. Honestly, at first it was simply a coincidence. The Helios costume has a lot of things Izuku needs for his quirks. But after a while he realized that it might be handy to just use his same one. Hell, his hero name might even be Soul, if he felt cocky enough. Eventually Aizawa steps up to speak to him. Izuku grimaces, waiting for what the man will say. I'm sorry for what I said. What? Izuku turns to the man curiously. I didn't know about your parents. You're right, I don't know what that's like. Aizawa says kinder than Izuku has ever heard him. Oh, this is far too emotional than Izuku was prepared for. What does he say? Sorry I called you a beach. Aizawa huffs out a laugh. That's okay, kid. Then he scans Izuku's suit. That's a costume. You like it? I figured your bothersome vigilante deserves some fans. Izuku says mockingly. God, they're multiplying. Aizawa mutters under his breath as he walks away and Izuku grins. Izuku's match against Kaken was strange for sure. He thought that Bakugo would release that explosion with no hesitancy, but instead he used his non-lethal ones. Izuku worked well with Uraraka. She's actually incredibly nice. She's really cute and she helped him out a lot. He brushes this thought away as he feels his face heat up. After the match, the school day is over. The two of them high-five and Izuku suggests they stop by his cafe for a celebratory coffee. She agrees and they have a nice walk to the Evergreen. Oh, my God. Uraraka gasps. You work at Evergreen? She says as they walk in. Toga approaches the pair. He doesn't just work here, he owns Evergreen. So, Toga smiles at the brunette. What's your name, cutie? Dash. Uraraka sputters as her face turns red. Ochako Uraraka. She holds out her hand to shake and Himiko kisses it gently. That flirt. Uraraka giggles as she tucks her hair behind her ear. Izuku sighs at his friend's antics. This is Himiko Toga, she's my co-worker. He sits at the counter and offers Uraraka a seat next to him. Uraraka notices the help wanted sign and turns to him. You're hiring? Izuku nods. Yeah, we're spread way too thin. With our newfound fame we need employees. Can I apply? Uraraka practically leaps at the chance. Are you kidding? That'd be great. Izuku grabs a napkin and writes his number on it. I didn't want to hire a stranger, so this is perfect. He hands her the napkin. You're hired. Yes. Uraraka pumps her fist. I can work weekends and after school. Himiko grins and Izuku sees her writing something on a napkin of her own. She steps next to Uraraka and places her napkin in her hand. Izuku sees Toga's number with the words, call me, next to a winky face. Ochako turns a deep shade of scarlet as she turns to Himiko. I will. She declares before leaving. After Uraraka left, Izuku turned to Himiko. She didn't even get her drink. Himiko shrugs. What can I say? I leave the ladies speechless. Izuku pushes her playfully. Don't you dare ruin my newest employee. Toga winks. No promises. 2 days later, when Izuku came back from UA with Uraraka, he saw Toga chatting with someone who looked suspiciously familiar. The mystery man had spiky black hair and he was wearing a black coat. Toga noticed the two of them immediately. Oh great. I have someone I'd like you to meet. Mystery man turned around and it took everything in Izuku not to gasp. Dabi was standing in his cafe. In Helios's cafe. Toga explains, this is an old friend of mine from the old days. He needs a job and I was wondering if he could work here. Dabi holds out his hand to shake. Pleasure. His voice sounds just as it always does, like he's just finished smoking half a pack of cigarettes. Izuku shakes his hand and smiles. Yeah, I'd have to watch you work for a while, but if Himi vouches for you that's good enough for me. Himiko high-fives Dabi. Told ya he was cool. Izuku beams. I'm cool? He says in fake amazement. Himiko scoffs as she pushes him as she walks over to Ochako. Uraraka-san is cooler. She says smoothly as she smiles at the flushed girl. Izuku rolls his eyes and leads Dabi to the back to show him the ropes. She's going to be flirting forever. He groans. Dabi chuckles lightly, believe me I know. A few years back she would get obsessed with one person and follow them everywhere. He grabs an apron. It was kind of a lot. Izuku started to fill a muffin pan with some pre-made batter. Well, if anyone can handle her it's Uraraka. He points to the girls who are currently standing incredibly close to one another. By the way, thanks for joining the crew. I felt bad leaving Himiko alone during the day when Uraraka and I go to school. Dabi nods. No problem, I need another job to keep me afloat and I saw you guys were hiring. Next thing I knew Himiko appeared. Kinda like divine intervention. Izuku hums casually, so you have another job? He asks despite knowing the answer. Yeah, I'm a part-time bartender but rent went up last month. He explains. Himiko said you go to UA? He raises an eyebrow. Yeah. Me and Ochako-san got in last week. That's impressive. Got any dash? He hesitates for a split second. So subtle that most people would miss it. But Izuku is not most people. Any cool classmates? UA is a pretty prestigious place after all. He asks not making eye contact. Izuku smiles gently, and there's this cool boy with dual hair. He's pretty impressive. Izuku watches carefully how Dabi reacts. He seems sad though. Izuku taps his leg casually. Why do you say that? Dabi says. His nonchalant attitude falters as Izuku gives him the exact information he was searching for. Izuku decides he might as well not beat around the bush. Todoroki, the one in his class, seems very unwell, and it's obvious Dabi isn't coping healthily either. Izuku has been spending years missing his mom, but both Shoto and Tuya are very much alive. It seems needlessly painful to stay apart for so many years. His brother died a few years back. He meets Dabi's eyes, or at least Todoroki thinks he's dead. Dabi's hands are shaking ever so slightly. What do you know about that? He hisses slightly angrily. A lot, Tuya. Izuku puts the muffins into the oven and then goes to sit on the counter. I'm sure Himi told you. The Evergreen is open to all, including people who are assumed dead. Izuku narrows his eyes as he looks at the scarred man. He misses you. Dabi pulls his apron off and puts it back angrily. You don't know Ishchi about that. He stalks off and the door jingles behind him as he leaves. Toga stares wide-eyed at the door her friend just stormed out of. What was that about Zu? She asks and Uraraka, who's also curious, nods from beside her. Izuku smiles casually at the pair. Don't worry, he'll be back tomorrow. Uraraka hums, if you say so. He seems so angry though. I provoked him. Midoriya says as he refills the cat's food. Of course you did. Uraraka sighs as she goes to deliver an order to table 3. Sure enough, Izuku was right on target. The next day Tuya Todoroki showed up for work bright and early at 5:30. He put on an apron and started serving customers at 6 o'clock. When Izuku came down to see Himiko and Dabi having already opened the cafe and getting started on making new pastries, he couldn't help but smile. He walked past the two and nodded to Dabi. I don't know how you know that stuff, but I assume it stays between us? Yes. Izuku beams, of course. You can ask Himi, I'm a great secret keeper. Toga laughs and nods. He's not wrong. I came in after being stabbed and he didn't even call the police. Tuya raises an eyebrow. That's weird, but whatever, I guess. Izuku grabs his backpack as he heads out. Have a good day and thanks again, Dabi. Right back at you, kid. Izuku sits anxiously at his seat. All Might is supposed to come in soon and Izuku is getting impatient. He's been trying to speak to the man for days, but it seems like he's being avoided. Thankfully Tashinori is legally obligated to show up, and not even the symbol of peace himself can escape one of Nezu's contracts. I am here. The man bellows despite having known everyone in here for at least a week. Even Kaken was starting to get tired of the hero's catchphrase being repeated for the 20th time. Aizawa sighs as he lets All Might lead the lesson. Yes, you are here. Can you teach now? Tashinori clears his throat awkwardly and Izuku almost feels bad for the man, right? Izuku listens absent-mindedly as All Might goes on about the ethics of heroics and other equally boring CRP. After an hour the lesson ends. Finally. Now it's Izuku's cue to leave for his lessons with Nezu. He races out the door and catches up to Yagi. One look at the man's face and Izuku knows he's planning on bolting, so Izuku says the first excuse that comes to mind. Nezu wants to talk to you. He blurts out. Nobody can say no to Nezu. It's an unwritten rule of the universe even for the #1 hero. Tashinori sighs and follows Izuku to the principal's office. When Izuku and Yagi walk into Nezu's office awkwardly, Izuku had expected the principal to have a bit more tact. How foolish of him. The moment the door closes, Nezu pulls out their corkboard used for tracing All for One, and the rat just speaks simply. Izuku Midoriya is the vigilante known as Helios. He is not working for All for One. In fact, he's been a valuable asset in helping me locate him. Because All for One is, in fact, alive. Izuku looks up at the wiry man whose jaw is practically on the floor. Nezu smiles cheerfully, that's all. The rat claps his hands and stands as he opens the office door. Have a good day. Izuku smirks, you're welcome to leave, sir. When the door shuts and Izuku is left with his principal, he can't control his laughter. What the F, dude? He wheezes. Nezu grins, that was fun. Besides, he was due for a shock. He sits back in his chair, keeps you vigilant. Izuku chuckles, God, that was great. I did not want to have to deal with the whole "you're a vigilante?" or the "all for one is alive?" thing. It's all so tiring. Izuku smiles and walks over to their board used for tracking All for One. So, where were we? Izuku is currently balancing on top of a power line. He's pretty impressed with his balance, to be honest. He's not even using a quirk to assist himself. Tsukachi stares at him from the rooftop. He turns to ask Aizawa. Does this happen a lot? Aizawa just sighs. Unfortunately, yes. I can hear you assholes. Izuku yells from his precarious position. He slowly tries to walk over to the pair. I'm an acrobat, yeah? He giggles as he jumps off the wire and onto the concrete roof. Is that even legal? Tsukachi wonders aloud. Before Eraser can answer, Izuku does. Not to worry. He pulls a sheet of paper out from his pocket and gleefully hands it to the man. I have a permit. Izuku bounces his tiptoes while the men read it. Aizawa glares at him. This just says, I can do what I want. He nods sagely, yes, it's very much legally binding. Aizawa rips his paper in half with no hesitation and Izuku squawks, hey, I've been wanting to use that forever. I don't even know where to start with you. Tsukachi huffs. Usually, Helios, what's wrong with you? Is a good start. Izuku says matter-of-factly. Tsukachi brushes that aside as he starts his debrief. Once Helios told the police about the whole All for One is coming after Helios thing, the precinct started freaking out. Normally it'd be weird for the police to team up with vigilantes, but Helios is just so terrifically charismatic and… What charisma? Aizawa raises an eyebrow. I said that out loud, didn't I? Anyway, you should be careful with this. A lot of information on All for One is classified, but he's a very dangerous man. Tsukachi explains. Izuku rolls his eyes. I'm way ahead of you guys. I know everything you do and more. I'm already working on something to catch the guy. Izuku is temporarily grateful for Tsukachi's lie detecting. At least now they'll know to trust him. Aizawa's gaze flits over to Tsukachi as a habit. Tsukachi nods to Eraser, and the two men are obviously very curious about how Helios knows so much. This isn't the kind of villain you can just catch Helios. Eraser attempts to explain. He's very smart and calculating. Izuku steps back onto the power line. Yeah, I understand. He turns back to the pair. Do you trust me? Show you to size, of course. Just be careful. Don't do any dumb shit like sacrificing yourself, okay? Izuku doesn't respond, so he asks again, okay? Izuku looks over to Tsukachi, trying to figure out how to answer the man's question without raising red flags. I'll be as safe as I can be, he says as he prepares to jump off the wire down to the alley below. Aizawa frowns. That wasn't very comforting, kid. Izuku smiles. I know. He releases the wire from his grip as he braces for his landing on the garbage bin below. Izuku looks inside the enormous building through a window. His binoculars press against his face as he watches the last employee leave Endeavor's agency. He smiles as he ducks behind the building and uses a handy molecular control quirk to enter the office with no trouble. He looks around the space and rolls his eyes. Endeavor has a sculpture of himself in his own office. How douchey. He's come here many times in the past few years. He hasn't pranked Endeavor's office for more than a year though. He tightened up security after Izuku got in time after time. But yesterday he relented and lessened his security once more. And Izuku is going to make the most of this. He knows he only has one shot at this. After tonight, there's no way that this place is going to have any less than 24 guards at all times. He could, if he truly needed to, break an even with all those guards, but honestly he doesn't want to involve civilians in this. He snaps the giant gold sculpture in half. This is just between him and Endeavor. His bag contains many bottles of spray paint as well as a few containers of honey. He smirks as he pours the sticky honey on every surface he can see. His chair, desk, computer, and the carpet. Once that was finished, he pulled out his spray paint and covered the huge portrait of Enji Todoroki on the wall. He stands back satisfied. I think this is my best work yet. He pulls up his hood with the semi-recognizable bunny ears. Time to skedaddle, he says to himself with a smile. Endeavor's office vandalized. Security tightens after break-in. Endeavor slandered. Graffiti artist Rabbit at it again. Izuku walks into 1A with a spring in his step. He notices Todoroki sitting in his spot in the back and Izuku looks around. The bell hasn't rung yet and most of the class aren't here yet. He stands up and walks over to the quiet boy. Todoroki looks up from his desk. What? Izuku smirks. He sees the resemblance between him and Tuya. Wanna hear what I did last night? Todoroki scowls at him, looking irritated to be spoken to. Not really. He waits for an explanation anyway though. Izuku sits on top of the desk next to the boy. Beating around the bush wouldn't win him any points with the youngest Todoroki. I vandalized your father's office. Todoroki blinks. Okay. Izuku figures that's the best he's going to get so he continues. Want to come with me next time? He grins, grateful that they are alone for this. He could get arrested for vandalism after all. Endeavor's security has tightened immensely, is what Todoroki says in lieu of a response. With a shrug of his shoulders Izuku responds, his office maybe. But there are lots of places with opportunities to mess with him. You in? He notes Todoroki scanning him up and down, trying to tell if this is a joke. I'm in, he says despite still being skeptical. Izuku beams perfect. He pulled out his phone and handed it to the boy. I'll text you. Todoroki frowns slightly at the phone as he types his number in. Why are you doing all of this? Why me? Izuku scoffs. You know why. Endeavor sucks and you know that full well. So do you, it seems. His eyes narrow while observing the freckled boy. Izuku hears Ida coming down the hallway distantly. He made me an orphan. So I can have and will bring him down. Izuku smiles, which clearly confuses Todoroki. By pranking him? By gathering evidence. He answers before returning to his desk with a new number in his phone. He taps contact and adds a name. Todoroki, the cute one. Students file in and Izuku spots Kaken. He's quite enjoying messing with him. He skips up to him and whispers. Wanna get wasted tonight? Kaken pauses. The F? It sounds more confused than angry though. Izuku hums innocently. I forgot you go to bed at 8:30 like a grandma. Just thought you might want to have fun. Bakuga scowls. Your idea of fun is showing up to school dead on your feet and smelling like you were doused in vodka. Izuku nods sagely. Precisely. So you in? Kaken pushes past him. No dumbass, you need to stop this if you know what's good for you. The green-haired boy sighs. You used to be more willing to break the rules, he says as he sits down. Kaken scoffs as he sits in his seat in front of Izuku. My time, breaking the rules was stupid and I regret it. Izuku pouts in his seat. Then an idea strikes him. He wonders what kind of shit the third years sell. Izuku lies in the vents above Class 3A. It's been pretty boring so far, but if he waits long enough he knows he's bound to find someone who sells cigarettes. He knows his mom would be so disappointed in him. He lingers on that thought before shaking it off. She's dead, so it's not like it matters. Eventually, after the teacher leaves the room, he sees a girl with short orange hair pulling something out of her bag. He grins as he falls to the ground with a bang. Oh my god. Someone just fell out of the ceiling. Izuku stands up shakily and gives the class 2 thumbs up. All good guys. He walks over to the girl and pulls out some bills from his pocket. She stares at him without saying anything. This for a pack? He offers. She hesitates as she hands him a pack of cigarettes. He slaps the money down on the desk as he turns to leave out of the door. He glances back and looks around. He scans the room. They're too stupefied to tell a teacher. Good. He beams at the girl as he leaves. Thanks. He walks down the hallway to Nezu's office and pockets the small box. He strolls in only to find All Might in a tense conversation with the principal. The two look up at the boy and he waves weakly. Am I interrupting? Yagi pauses and stands to say hi to him. No, not at all. He's lying. Something tells me you're discussing me? Izuku raises an eyebrow. All Might nods ashamedly. We were indeed. Nezu says. Izuku just nods. Not a problem. He sits on the couch casually. Maybe I can help? In all honesty, he feels bad for the man. Izuku has kinda grown fond of the man for who he is, rather than his hero persona. So for the next half hour he patiently explains the simpler aspects of being Helios. There were a lot of, but you were just a kid. And no way. Yes. But by the end Toshinori is very understanding. He pats Izuku on the shoulder. You're very brave, young Midoriya. He tells him. Izuku fights against the tears that well in his eyes. Thanks, I guess. he says as casually as he can manage. All Might smiles at the boy. I'm very proud of you. See you in class. He leaves and Izuku is sitting stunned while Nezu grins. Alexa, play Daddy Issues by the Neighborhood. The rat says quietly. Izuku checks a throw pillow at the principal. You're not wrong, but geez? Izuku pulls the box out of his pocket and wanders out into the courtyard. He turns it over and pulls one out absent-mindedly before realizing he doesn't even have a lighter. He sighs and sits on the grass leaning against a tree. A few seconds later he spots someone approaching him. Todoroki. He beams at the boy who sits next to him casually. Midoriya. I didn't see you in the cafeteria. Izuku shrugs. I'll go later, I have time. Then he remembers his problem and inspiration strikes. Say, your quirk is partially fire, right? Todoroki frowns and shakes his head. I don't use my father's quirk. I will be a hero without him. Izuku pauses and looks at him. Huh? But it's not his, it's yours. Todoroki says nothing, so Izuku continues. Like, not using all your power will only hurt you in the future. My father Endeavor is a bad person. You vandalized his office, so I'm sure you're aware to some extent. Todoroki sighs bitterly. But it goes much further than you know. After meeting Tuya, Izuku doubts that, but he lets him speak. Tell me? Izuku sighs. He kinda figured out what Todoroki told him, but it's different to hear it in person. He pats his shoulder. That's awful, dude. He wonders if he should tell Todoroki his own story, but it might be too risky. He glances at the boy. He's never seen him smile or laugh. Maybe it would be worth it to share? So he starts talking. My dad is an awful person too. Todoroki raises an eyebrow in surprise. We have similar quirks. He kills people with it, I save them. He pulls out his cigarettes from his pocket and hands one to Todoroki. Your father is a villain? He asks with a touch of shock showing on his face. Yeah. But I'm not him. He holds out his own cigarette for Todoroki to light. And you're not Endeavor. The boy holds out his hand and stares at it for a second. Then the tip of his finger ignites and he lights them both. You seem unstable. Todoroki says as he breathes in the smoke. Izuku cackles at this. Absolutely. But it makes for an interesting life, doesn't it, Todoroki? He says gleefully. Call me Shoto. The boy says out of nowhere. Izuku grins. Then call me Izuku. He holds out his hand for Shoto to shake. I swear to God, if Aizawa saw us smoking, he'd have our heads. Shoto nods in agreement. He is rather intense. The two of them sit quietly for a few more minutes before the bell rings for Shoto to return to class. Izuku walks back to the Evergreen, praying to All Might that Toga won't smell the smoke on his uniform instantly. She has a freakishly good sense of smell. Uraraka is telling him about something Himiko said the other day, saying stuff like, does she like me? I want her to like me. She's so pretty, oh my god. Izuku tries to calm her down, but it doesn't really work. They walk in and he goes behind the counter and nods to Tuya. Ochako walks over to Himiko and tucks her hair behind her ear nervously. They're both so disgustingly romantic. Izuku sighs. Will those two ever just get together? He whines. Tuya smirks. They have a few more months of pining left to do. Izuku rolls his eyes before remembering his conversation with the younger Todoroki. I talked to your brother today. Oh. He's traumatized. Tuya winces. Yeah. Endeavor does that to you. Izuku snorts. Tell me about it. Anyway, I've been gathering evidence for the past few years and I've built a pretty good case against him. Wanna help? He asks casually. Tuya chokes on his drink a little. What? A case. Izuku notes. Child abuse, domestic violence, murder, obstruction of justice, assault, and like so many others. Izuku pulls out a few files he got from Endeavor's office last night. The man stands there gaping. How? There's no way, there's just evidence laying out in the open. He winks. A little breaking and entering never hurt anyone. Unfortunately for Izuku, Tuya is not an idiot. A random person with extensive knowledge about the Todoroki family who doesn't get caught up in the legality of things. Tuya connects those things rather fast. Thankfully the cafe isn't too full yet, so the two of them aren't at risk of being overheard. He lowers his voice to a hush. Oh my god, you're Greenie? He asks wildly. Izuku smirks. Ding ding. Tuya laughs. Helios. He stares wide-eyed. Izuku smiles sheepishly at his staring. Cheers? So, the case. You in? Hell yeah, I'm in. The man grins manically. Let's get this. Izuku sits on the branch of the same tree he was at weeks ago. Hopefully Hawks will show up soon. Sure enough, he's not completely out of luck. The blonde man flies down quickly, reminding Izuku why he's known as a speed hero. Izuku hangs upside down from the branch and waves to the man. Hawks. He smiles happily. Helios. The man nods in return. How is she? Izuku hums, pretty good I think. Aries under the care of UA now, and you and I both know Nezu doesn't let anyone in there who isn't safe. Hawks smiles, that's good. Izuku jumps down from the tree and begins walking towards his usual rooftop. To his surprise, Hawks actually follows him. He sits down on the cold concrete and gestures for the man to sit next to him. They sit quietly for a while before Izuku gets an idea. Say, do you like coffee? What? The hero looks perplexed and frankly Izuku can't blame him. I mean there's a good place nearby, you should stop by sometime, he speaks casually. Hawks interrupts, what on earth are you talking about? 'Cause if you stop by there I could help you get out of the commission's control. Izuku explains with a wave of his hands. Evergreen, cats and coffee is a pretty cool place. He shrugs, hoping the man will consider it. Can you imagine how much business they would get if Hawks went there? Hawks frowns, so if I visit this one cafe you'll get the commission off of my back? Why this specifically? Izuku smiles, you're being taken advantage of by the HPSC and I feel bad. And you would bring in business for them and I owe the owner a favor. The second reason was of course a lie. But he can't exactly say that he just wants to meet the man and get an autograph for his civilian person. Hawks sighs, you know what, as much as I would like that, I doubt even you could help me when it comes to the HPSC. Izuku smirks from underneath his mask, watch me. He says with all the determination he can muster. At that moment he hears someone calling for help, so it's time for Helios to get going. He smiles though. His motivations for this are mostly selfish, but it is nice to have a reason to deal with the HPSC. Plus he would kill for an autograph signed to Izuku Midoriya. Can you imagine? About an hour later he strolls into the bloody body. He smiles as he walks over to Dabi. Hey Greenie. The man says with a smirk. What would you say if I asked you for a whiskey on ice? He prays that Dabi won't be a stickler to the rules. Tuya frowns and lowers his voice so they aren't overheard. You're fucking 15 idiot. He says before returning to normal volume. So no way. What? Izuku whines, that didn't stop you last time I got wasted here. Tuya crosses his arms, I didn't know then. Izuku pouts and opts to pull out a cigarette instead. Thankfully he bought a lighter the other day so he doesn't have to depend on Dabi's flames. Party pooper. Dabi looks wide-eyed as he watches the boy pull down his mask and light it. Where on earth did you get those? He asks, affronted. Izuku smirks with the cigarette between his teeth. Does it matter? He exhales the smoke and swats away Dabi, who's currently trying to grab it from him. Obviously. That shit's bad for you. Just then Clash walked up to the two of them and scoffed, please Dabs, you chain smoke daily. Izuku gestures to the man, see. You're just a hypocrite. He says as he inhales. Tuya glares at the boy, that's different and you know it. Izuku rolls his eyes, anyway, I need some information. Tuya sighs and relents, shoot. Give me all your dirt on the hero commission. It was a pretty slow day at the Evergreen when Hawks came in. Tuya was just minding his business like he does, when all of a sudden people went batshit crazy. He had just sighed and looked up wondering what all the fuss was about. Then he made eye contact with the number 3 hero. This is going to give him a migraine, isn't it? What can I get for you? He asks flatly. Hawks, will you marry me? A girl asks shrilly. I love you. Someone else says from the background. Have my babies. Another voice shouts. Geez, this is weird. What the? He asks aloud. If you're not here to order, leave? He yells to the crowd of admirers. Some of them leave sheepishly while others continue to stick to the hero. Hawks doesn't seem to know how to react to the situation. Espresso with 2 pumps of vanilla please? Dabi sighs, sure thing. Eventually the fans clear out and Tuya hands Hawks his coffee. Also, one more thing, can I talk to the owner if that's okay? Tuya raises an eyebrow and narrows his eyes critically and Hawks feels his face heat up. But then he just shrugs and yells upstairs, hey Izu. Someone wants to talk. He doesn't get paid to ask questions after all. He hears the thumping of footsteps rushing down the stairs and Izuku waves at the hero like he's known him for years. Hawks. He walks towards Hawks. I take it Helios spoke to you? Now that's interesting. But still above his pay grade. He leaves the two to talk as he brings table 3 their coffee. Izuku smiles at the confused expression on the hero's face as he leads him to a quieter place in the back. You know Helios? Hawks asks, stupefied. Izuku Holmes, yep. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Can I have an autograph, sir? To be honest, he knows that saying he knows Helios is risky, but if things go to plan, Hawks won't be in a position to tell anyone what he knows. Sorry, I'm just confused, how does a random teenager know Helios? He's asking good questions. Sucks for Izuku. But he pulls out a pen and signs a small sheet of paper. Izuku watches the hero sign it with glee. Hawks hands it to him and he grins ear to ear. Thank you, Hawks. Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm a random teenager. But anyway, Helios isn't exactly hard to talk to. They're pretty chatty. Hawks watches the boy carefully. So if you're not a random teenager, what are you? Izuku grins, a strange one. Without further explanation, he opens up his file cabinet and pulls out a collection of papers. Sign these. Hawks reads them skeptically. This isn't going to be enough to go against the commission, he says, eyeing the boy cautiously. Izuku shrugs, not on its own. But there are some plans in motion. Hawks looks at the boy. Am I really going to risk my entire training and career because of the claim of one random vigilante? He asks, more to himself than Izuku. Izuku shoots him a grin. Of course you are. Because the HPSC goes unspoken. The hero sighs as he takes the pen offered to him. Of course I am. He signs it, Hawks, and smiles lightly. The commission isn't going down without a fight. He warns the boy. Izuku takes the papers back. Trust me, I know. He beams, we'll take care of it. Hawks huffs, I have to put my faith in a strange teen and a chatty vigilante? Izuku smiles, do you have a better option? Hawks shrugs, you're right, I guess. You guys will let me know when everything is ready? Izuku nods tsorse. Good luck, Kigo. Izuku sees him twitch at this. You know my name? Izuku considers something, then repeats what he told the man a few weeks earlier. Once something is online, it never gets erased. He watches the pieces fall into place as Hawks figures it out. You're Helios, he says breathily. It's not a question, but Izuku answers anyway. Took you long enough. He grins as he strolls back into the cafe. Keep my secrets, will ya? To his credit, Hawks only hesitates for a moment. Only if you keep mine. Hawks replies as he turns away. The freckled boy salutes the man as he walks away with his coffee in hand. This might work out well. That night he thinks over what he needs to do. All for one, the commission, the League of Villains. Why do people have to be so damn murderous? He whines to himself. After a few seconds of deliberation, he calls Nezu. Why, hello, Midoriya. Is this a business call? Izuku sighs, unfortunately. Can you send me everything you have on the commission? Oh. He wants a reason in exchange for the information. He can be rather gossipy. I wanted an autograph, he says vaguely. He can practically hear the rat grin on the other side of the phone. Well, you're never not interesting, that's for sure. Why do you need my help for this? Izuku realizes he isn't going to get anywhere without telling the whole truth. It's not just anyone's autograph. It's Hawks. Nezu laughs in his manic manner. You owe Hawks a favor. He cackles. Izuku rolls his eyes, waiting for the principal to tire himself out. So, will you help me? Of course. Sending the files right now. Sure enough, within moments Izuku hears the ping of a new message. He opens the file and grins. This, combined with what Dabi told him, will work perfectly. Almost every single member of the HPSC has committed some petty crime, and they accelerate as you go up the ladder. It scales from minor theft to murder. This will be plenty. The next few hours Izuku drudges up more information from the depths of the internet. The CEO is tied to a human trafficking ring, the head of communications has a secret second family, and the manager of the hero training branch laundered a ton of money. He then looks into the records of all hero fights. Luckily for him, they're all public, so he won't get any for hacking into classified files. He clicks on the fights and makes a few spreadsheets showing just how reckless the commission is with people's lives. Once he's satisfied with the presentation of his information, he sets up a few links to make it easy for the public to access. He smiles as he sets up a new Twitter account. Anonymous at Don't Fucking Trime. Hello Twitter. I'm here to expose all the lies the HPSC has said and all their misdeeds. Enjoy, smiley face. Click this link to see how much the commission has messed up. Oh, and as a bonus, here are the statistics that show that commission-trained heroes have a much higher rate for civilian casualties than any other heroes. Curious. Anyway, down with the HPSC. XD. Love, Anonymous, love. He clicks the post button with a grin on his face. The Anonymous account could help him with a few projects in the future as well. He shuts his laptop and walks over to his bed. He lays down and falls asleep quickly. He has a busy day tomorrow anyway. He walks up to the gate, not at all surprised to see the crowd of reporters surrounding the students trying to get inside. Is it true that All Might is working at UA? What shampoo does All Might use? What's it like being taught by the #1 hero? And some even mention the new commission information that was leaked from Anonymous. Do you think UA provides a better education than the HPSC? Izuku scowls as he steps on a box to get their attention. Hey! He yells as loud as he possibly can. Who wants an exclusive tell-all interview from the principal's personal student? He roars to the crowd. The people shout back with their questions. Is it true that... He grits his teeth as he answers the questions as vaguely as he possibly can. Midoriya Izuku is already internet famous after all. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he became a scapegoat. He glances down at the crowd and sees a few UA students shooting him a grateful look. He hopes they can get in easily now. He bolts through the crowd trying to lure the reporters away. What else do you want to know? He asks the reporters surrounding him. It might be mint? I don't know, I haven't paid attention to what conditioner he uses. He sighs at the pathetic questions the reporters are dying to know. There are rumors that All Might is teaching to find a successor. Do you have any ideas who that could be? Now this is fun. Izuku grins to the camera. No clue. He says definitively. With All Might's popularity and fame, it's inevitable for people to eventually discover that he's the successor. But for now he can be relatively unknown. He glances over and sees that most of his classmates have gotten through the gate. He sees a place he can sneak through, so he takes his opportunity and bolts away from the reporters. He runs inside and walks into the door. He jogs to his class. He doesn't want to be too late after all. He pushes open the door and sees Mina, Wana's resident gossip queen, huddled in with a bunch of their classmates. Whatcha looking at? He asks curiously. Oh my gosh. Zu, you have to see this. She shows him her phone. He recognizes it instantly as the post he made last night. People are saying that the government might get rid of the HPSC over this. They better. He comments, I read all of the information. The commission isn't worth the huge amount of funding that gets poured into it. Even Kaken looks intrigued now, but he's way too prideful to go up and ask. So instead Izuku walks over to him and shows the post. Someone named Anonymous wrecked the commission's shit. He exclaims proudly. Bakugu's eyebrows raise slightly. Damn. Zero smirks. Even Bakugu is impressed. He says slyly, to which he gets kicked in the leg for. Hey. Kaken glares at him. It's not that impressive. He denies gruffly. Izuku rolls his eyes as he sits down at his desk. Anyway, I bet that Anonymous will post more. He states casually. You think? Denki says, isn't it like illegal though? Momo chimes in, not necessarily. All of the information was able to be obtained legally. I agree with Midoriya, they made the account to expose people, they won't stop with this. Denki shivers, freaky. Ochako looks concerned now. It seems dangerous to have someone who goes about revealing everyone's secrets. She says as she bites her fingernails. Izuku shakes his head, not really. He gets the class's attention easily. Anonymous seems only concerned with the serious threats. I doubt they want to be in anyone's business, they want to help society. Kaken grunts, what the nerd said. Everyone shut up and listen to me. Aizawa cuts the conversation off immediately as he stands up in his sleeping bag. Instantly 1A clambers to their seats and tries to appear as well behaved as possible. Izuku has to hand it to the man, he's good at getting them to quiet down. He zones out again, wondering what he should do to tear the HPSC down even more now that they're in an unstable situation in the eyes of the public. He enters the commission's monitoring system and screen records a conversation between the president and the head of HR. He grins. Suffice to say, it's very incriminating. He brings out his phone and under his desk he types up a new tweet. Anonymous at Dawntrime. I'm so glad that my last tweet got so much traction. I have an extension of the HPSC drama. Here's a recording of the commission discussing how to cover up the scandals I exposed. I feel like Gossip Girl, winking and laughing. XOXO Anonymous. He clicks off his phone and shoves it in his bag as he tries to pay attention to Aizawa's lesson about how to properly detain villains. Man, he's having a fun time with this. It only takes an hour for Mina to discover the latest tweet. Oh my god, you guys. She squeals excitedly. She shows the class the message and clicks into the video. Izuku looks on with satisfaction. And you go down there and tell them to get rid of that account. Madam President, the head of the HPSC yells at the man. Ma'am, we can't just dash. I don't care how you do it, just get it done. The woman's voice is heard clear as day through Mina's phone. Whoa, Tsuyu says in awe, this isn't going to work out well for the commission. Izuku grins, they don't know how much they just messed up. He says quietly to himself. The bell rings for lunch and everyone stands up to leave. Izuku decides he might as well go to the cafeteria today, especially since he knows exactly what is going to happen today. He walks down the hallway with Ochako and Ida. He looks around and sees Todoroki. Hey Shoto, come join us. He smiles at the boy who looks surprised to have been included. Okay. He walks up to the trio and nods in acknowledgement to the other two. You know, I can't believe this anonymous person. Even if the statistics from the first tweet were obtained legally, the video certainly wasn't. To nobody's surprise, Ida is deeply offended by the mystery tweeter. Izuku grabs a tray from the lunch line as he speaks to his friends. I don't know, they're doing it for good. Shoto hums, I'm in agreement with you. The HPSC isn't a good organization, he says as they walk to a table. I don't know, Ochako sighs, it was a good thing, but if you start to bend the rules, how do you know where to stop? Ida nods fervently, that is exactly it. He declares, I don't trust the morally gray. Izuku chuckles, the morally gray get things done. Before Ida can respond, the alarm goes off and shocks everyone. Well, everyone but Izuku. He looks to his friends instantly and says, I need to do something, before rushing towards the hallway going to Nezu's office. Eventually the shock wears off and everyone runs to evacuate. Izuku throws open Nezu's door and looks between the rat and Aizawa, who is there for some reason. Do you have it? He asks frantically, not caring about the audience he has. Nezu, who was briefed this morning for what to expect, nods. I do. What on earth are you doing here, problem child? You need to evacuate? Izuku smiles sheepishly, just being a hero? Aizawa sighs, you'll be a hero when you get your license. He grabs Izuku's shoulder and pulls him out of the room. For now you're just a student who needs to follow the rules. Izuku sticks his tongue out at the man, you're no fun, Mr. Hobo. Aizawa's eyes glow red as his hair floats up, evacuate with your classmates, Midoriya. Izuku pouts, fine. He runs out to the exit, painfully aware of Aizawa watching him the whole time. For the billionth time Izuku has raised red flags that Aizawa would normally spot. But after knowing the kid, the hero just brushes it off. Because no matter what his persona is, Izuku Midoriya is eccentric. No one thinks twice when he does strange things. Because that's just him. So Izuku will use that to his advantage for as long as he can. After it was revealed that the emergency was just some reporters, people calmed down for the most part. Izuku didn't though. He went right back to Nezu's office and texted All Might 2 on his way. He walked into the principal's office, grateful that All Might was already there. Hey. He waves to the pair, who look very awkward next to each other. Nezu is a small rodent while Toshinori is an incredibly tall man, even in his shrunken form. Nezu stands up from his chair as he grabs the files and hands them to the teenager. You were right, they went immediately for the papers. They took the fake ones. And the real ones? Izuku asks. Burned. What you're holding is a copy of the fakes just in case it's needed. Izuku nods, right? So next Friday who will be there? All Might chimes in, I will of course, as well as Midnight, Aizawa and 13. Okay. When should I arrive? Izuku asks. You'll be with your class. Nezu responds. You won't be fighting them. Izuku shakes his head. Absolutely not, this is my battle. He states determinedly. It's the heroes who battle young Midoriya. All Might says assuredly. We want to keep you safe. He puts his hand on Izuku's shoulder gently. Izuku rolls his eyes irritably. I can help. I've done more as Helios than 13 and Midnight combined. He grumbles. Izuku, All Might's tone is a warning, you are a child. Don't come to the fight. Izuku turns to leave, I do what I want. He spits out as he slams the door on them. Izuku wanders around the hallways trying to clear his head. He makes the unfortunate decision of checking his phone only to see himself tagged hundreds of times in reference to some gossip column. Viral teen in the spotlight. What do we know about Midoriya Izuku? Izuku cringes at the article's title. He knew he was gaining attention, but he didn't think there would be pages dedicated to him. He continues reading. The 15-year-old gained social media fame a few months ago while working at the Evergreen cafe. Videos were taken of him and his coworker Toga Himiko. There's a gif of him vomiting over the side of a booth after he received one for all. It shows him giving a peace sign to the camera. Very unflattering, he winces. Then the cafe created an account of their own, mostly run by the aforementioned Toga. Hundreds of thousands followed the witty teens and laughed at their charming banter. And just a few hours ago new information was revealed about the mysterious boy. He goes to UA High School. Izuku inhales sharply. When speaking to the reporters he didn't think before he spoke, and it's coming back to bite him. A clip of Izuku comes on screen, who wants an exclusive tell-all interview from the principal's personal student. The principal of UA is known for only choosing the brightest students to teach. And after investigating the claims we've found that they are indeed true. Izuku Midoriya is Nezu's first student in decades. The last student tutored under the principal quit after 3 days. Let's see how long this social media sensation will last. After that is a video with Izuku's full interview given to the reporters. He sighs. This is going to be a pain. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through What If Vigilante Deku Was the Owner of Cat Cafe? I hope you found it as intriguing and thought-provoking as we did. A big shout out to Arch12 for crafting such a compelling story. Don't forget to check out their profile on Archive of Our Own for more amazing works. The link is in the description below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to What If Deku 2.0 for more fascinating explorations into the world of fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we're always excited to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you guys in the next video.